The mockery of humanity. The Grand Hall of the Dominion Council was alive with laughter. Delegates from dozens of star systems, representing the mightiest civilizations in the galaxy, were gathered. At the center of the conversation was a holographic display of Earth, rotating slowly like a forgotten relic. The humans, sneered Saltor, a reptilian admiral with scales that glimmered like polished steel. Primitive creatures stuck on their little blue planet, thinking they matter in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Did you see their so-called ships? Added Irela, a winged diplomat from the Ellerin cluster. Her iridescent feathers shimmered as she gestured dismissively. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They can't even create a functioning quantum drive. Laughter rippled through the hall, a wave of arrogance and overconfidence. But not everyone was amused. In a corner of the room, General Kravik of the Dominion's Intelligence Division leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. He tapped a clawed finger against the table as he reviewed a report on his datapad. It wasn't the first time he had seen something off about the humans. Do not underestimate them, Kravik finally said, his gravelly voice cutting through the chatter. The hall quieted, and heads turned toward him. Are you serious? Salter scoffed, his sharp teeth flashing. They haven't even joined the Galactic Coalition. They're too busy squabbling over their own borders and primitive wars. Kravik didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he swiped at his datapad, sending a holographic projection into the air. The image showed faint energy signatures, barely noticeable, in the vicinity of Earth's orbit. This, Kravik said, is data collected from a Dominion scout ship sent near their system 2 cycles ago. The readings suggest the presence of cloaked objects. The room erupted into murmurs. Cloaking technology was difficult, even for the Dominion. The suggestion that humans might possess it was laughable, but also unsettling. Probably space debris, Irela said, waving a hand dismissively. Or a malfunction in your scout's sensors, Saltor added. Humans couldn't possibly develop cloaking technology. They're still using outdated fusion drives. Kravik narrowed his eyes. Perhaps. But what about the disappearance of scout ship Verac 7? He flicked his datapad again, bringing up a report of a vessel that had gone missing near the edges of human space. No wreckage, no distress signal. Just gone. The room fell silent. It could have been a natural anomaly, Zaltor argued, though his tone carried less confidence now. Or, Kravik countered, it could have been something else entirely. Something we've underestimated. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Despite their outward arrogance, the Dominion feared the unknown, and humanity had always been a wild card in galactic politics. They were quiet, secretive, and oddly united when dealing with outsiders. Even if they had something to do with it, Irela said, her voice sharp. What could they possibly achieve? Their fleet is a collection of outdated cruisers. Their military would crumble against the Dominion in days. Kravik didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned forward, his gaze sweeping across the room. They may not have our technology, but they have something we don't. Unpredictability, desperation, and perhaps something they've kept hidden for far too long. The room buzzed with nervous energy. We're wasting time, Zaltor said finally, shaking his head. Humans are no threat. Focus on the real enemies. The Aetherians, the Zoraxis, species with actual power. Kravik sighed and leaned back in his chair. He knew it was pointless to argue further. The Dominion was blinded by their arrogance, too confident in their superiority to consider the possibility of a threat from humanity. As the discussion moved on, Kravik sent a discreet message to his intelligence team. Increase surveillance on Earth. Focus on anomalies. Meanwhile, in a darkened chamber deep beneath Earth's surface, a group of human leaders and scientists gathered around a massive holographic display. It worked, one of them said, a note of triumph in their voice. The Verac 7, another asked. The first nodded. Completely neutralize. No debris. No signal. They don't even know what hit them. The group exchanged determined glances. For decades, humanity had quietly advanced its technology in secret, developing weapons and strategies that the galaxy couldn't anticipate. They had learned long ago that revealing their full capabilities would only invite invasion. "Let them laugh," said a woman in a sleek black uniform. Her eyes gleamed with cold resolve. "They think we're weak, that we're primitive. They'll learn soon enough." The hologram shifted, showing a map of the galaxy with red markers indicating Dominion outposts. "Begin Phase 1, the woman ordered. In the shadows, humanity's hidden forces prepared to strike. The galaxy might scoff at them now, but soon they would learn the truth and tremble. Whispers in the void. The Dominion scout ship Perimeter's Edge floated silently near the borders of human space. Its crew, a mix of seasoned Dominion officers and fresh recruits, monitored the void with an air of routine. To them, humanity's region of space was a backwater, a curiosity, not a concern. "Energy readings remained stable," reported Lieutenant Ralix, a slender insectoid whose antennae twitched as he scanned his console. "No signs of advanced activity." Captain Vale, a broad-shouldered Zerakian with violet skin, leaned back in his chair. "As expected, humans are little more than an irritation, but orders are orders." The crew chuckled lightly, their confidence born from years of uneventful patrols. The Dominion's doctrine was clear: always watch the primitives, even if they seemed harmless. Yet something about this mission felt different. "Captain," Ralix said suddenly, his voice sharper than before, "I'm detecting an anomaly." Vale straightened in his seat. "Define anomaly." Ralix hesitated, his multifaceted eyes narrowing as he focused on the data. "Localized energy spike. It's faint, but it's not natural. Originating from—" He paused, his antennae stiffening. "From dead space." The bridge fell silent. Dead space, a region of the void with no stars, no planets, no detectable objects. It was supposed to be empty. "Bring it up on the main display," Vale ordered. The holographic screen flickered to life, showing a patch of blackness. For a moment, it seemed entirely unremarkable. But then, a faint shimmer rippled across the darkness, like a mirage on a distant horizon. "What is that?" murmured one of the junior officers. Val's eyes narrowed. "Magnify and enhance." The image zoomed in, revealing the faint outline of a massive structure, partially cloaked by advanced stealth technology. It was angular, imposing, and distinctly alien. "Impossible," Ralix whispered. That's not Dominion tech." Val's pulse quickened. "Are you saying it's human?" Ralix didn't answer immediately. Instead, he analyzed the readings, his claws flying across the console. "It's unlike anything we've seen from them before, but the energy signature matches Earth's vicinity." Before Val could respond, the ship's proximity alarms blared. "Multiple contacts inbound," shouted another officer. They decloaked. On the holographic display, dozens of sleek black ships appeared around the perimeter's edge. Their hulls were matte, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They were smaller than Dominion vessels, but their designs radiated a lethal efficiency. "Battle stations," Vale roared. The Dominion ship's crew scrambled into action, but the human ships moved with an eerie precision. Before the perimeter's edge could raise its shields, a barrage of high-energy beams struck its engines, disabling them instantly. "Damage report," Vale barked. "Engines offline." Ralix replied, panic in his voice. "Weapons systems unresponsive. They've locked us down completely." Vale clenched his fists. "Send a distress signal to the nearest outpost. Now." "They've jammed our communications," Ralix said, his antennae trembling. On the main display, one of the human ships approached. It dwarfed the perimeter's edge, its sleek design unmarred by the scars of battle. A transmission crackled through the Dominion ship's speakers, a cold and calculated voice breaking the silence. "You have trespassed into restricted space. the voice said. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. Val's jaw tightened. The Dominion did not surrender. But before he could issue a defiant response, the human ship fired a warning shot, its energy beams slicing through the void and grazing the perimeter's edges hull. Captain, Relic said quietly, if we don't comply, they'll annihilate us. Val knew he had no choice. Cease all operations, he ordered reluctantly. Signal surrender. The crew complied, their movements stiff with humiliation. The human ships surrounded the perimeter's edge, their weapons trained on the helpless vessel. In the shadows of their command ship, a human officer observed the scene with satisfaction. They didn't even put up a fight, she said, turning to her superior. They never do, the commander replied. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. Let them carry the message back to their leaders. Humanity is no longer content to be underestimated. The unseen army. Word of the Dominion scout ship's humiliating capture spread like wildfire across the galaxy. It was a direct challenge to the Dominion's long-standing dominance, a warning that humanity was no longer an insignificant power. Within the Dominion's high command chamber, Grand Strategist Cyros loomed over the holographic table. The tall, serpentine leader's emerald scales reflected the dim glow of the tactical map as his advisors debated humanity's sudden rise. This is unacceptable, roared General Kor, a burly, wolf-like Graxian. His claws scraped against the table in frustration. A primitive race should not possess such advanced technology. They were supposed to be monitored, contained. They were monitored, Tyros replied, his tone icy. And yet, we missed their evolution. That oversight now threatens the stability of the Dominion. Reports indicate they have cloaking technology superior to ours, said advisor Lenora, her delicate insectoid wings trembling with unease. Their fleet was undetectable until it was too late. Perhaps they've had outside help, Kor growled. No species advances this quickly without assistance. Zyros's eyes narrowed. Do not dismiss their ingenuity. Humans have always been adaptable, resourceful, and above all, dangerous when cornered. Lenora tilted her head. What do we know of their capabilities? The scout ship's crew provided little intelligence before their return. Kor's growl deepened. Then we must provoke them. Force them into open combat. Let them reveal their secrets. Cyros considered this for a moment, his clawed fingers tapping the table rhythmically. Prepare a fleet. We will test humanity's resolve. Far from the Dominion's deliberations, humanity's hidden forces were already on the move. Deep within a hollowed-out asteroid base, Commander Alana Voss stood before her elite strike team. The room buzzed with quiet energy as soldiers suited up in advanced exoskeletons and technicians prepared stealth drones for deployment. We've sent our message, Voss began, her voice carrying a steely authority. Now the Dominion will come looking for answers. They think they can intimidate us into submission. The soldiers exchanged grim smiles. They knew what was coming. They've underestimated us for too long, Voss continued. But we've been preparing for this moment for decades. Our ships, our weapons, our soldiers, everything we've built has been designed to level the playing field. Commander, said Lieutenant Harris, a wiry young officer with sharp eyes, intel suggests the Dominion is mobilizing a fleet near the Zakar system. They might launch a probing attack soon. Good, Voss replied. We'll show them what happens when they challenge humanity. She turned to the holographic display, which showed the Dominion fleet's suspected trajectory. Deploy our stealth ships to intercept. Maintain formation until I give the order. And remember, our strength lies in the element of surprise. 3 days later, the Dominion fleet arrived in the Zakar system, their warships cutting an imposing figure against the starry expanse. The fleet's commander, Admiral Threx, surveyed the empty space before them, with a mixture of confidence and irritation. Still no sign of them. Threx asked. None, Admiral, replied his tactical officer. If the humans are here, they're well hidden. Threx sneered. Cowards. They rely on tricks because they lack the strength for open battle. Scan the area again. They can't hide forever. But even as the Dominion ships calmed the system with their advanced sensors, humanity's stealth fleet remained undetected. Cloaked and motionless, they watched the Dominion's every move. "Targets are in position," whispered Lieutenant Harris aboard the human command ship. Voss nodded. "Begin Phase 1. On her command, a dozen stealth drones launched silently from hidden bays. They slipped through the void like shadows, each equipped with advanced electronic warfare systems. Within moments, the Dominion fleet's communications were scrambled, their sensors blinded by false readings and chaotic interference. "Admiral," shouted Threx's officer, "we've lost control of our systems. Unknown interferences." Before he could finish, a sudden barrage of precision strikes erupted from the void. Human ships decloaked one by one, their weapons targeting the Dominion fleet's weak points with surgical precision. Engines exploded, shields failed, and panic spread like wildfire. "Return fire," Threx bellowed. "All ships, engage." But it was too late. The Dominion fleet, disoriented and outmaneuvered, was no match for humanity's precision tactics. One by one, their ships were disabled or destroyed, leaving the survivors to retreat in disarray. As the smoke cleared, Commander Voss stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the remnants of the Dominion fleet flee. "Let them run," she said coldly. "They'll carry the tale of what they've seen. And next time, they'll know to fear the shadows." The tide turns. The Dominion's humiliation at the hands of humanity's stealth fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Stories of the battle spread faster than light, carried by fleeing survivors and intercepted communications. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced a foe that could match their power. In the Grand Chamber of the Dominion High Command, tensions were palpable. Grand Strategist Tyros paced before a holographic map of the galaxy, his claws clicking against the polished floor. "The humans are no longer an inconvenience," he growled. "They are a threat, one that must be eliminated before they gain further ground." "But how, strategist?" asked General Kor, his fur bristling with frustration. "They strike from the shadows, disabling our fleets before we can even detect them." Lenora, the insectoid advisor, chimed in. "Their technology is decades ahead of what we believed possible. If we continue to underestimate them, we risk total defeat." Cyros slammed his fist against the table, silencing the room. "Then we adapt. Launch a full-scale reconnaissance mission. We will find their hidden bases, their production facilities, and their weaknesses. And when we do, we will crush them." On a remote planet in an uncharted system, humanity's leadership convened in a secure underground bunker. Holographic displays filled the room, showing detailed reports of the recent battle. Commander Elena Voss stood at the head of the table, her piercing gaze scanning the gathered officers and scientists. "The Dominion knows they can't afford another loss," she began. "They'll be coming for us with everything they have." "Then we hit them first," said Colonel Grant, a grizzled veteran with a deep scar running across his face. "Strike before they can regroup." "Not yet," Voss replied. "We've shown them our strength, but we haven't revealed our full capabilities. Let them come to us. When they do, we'll make sure it's a fight they won't forget." Dr. Evelyn Hayes, a leading scientist, stepped forward. "Our stealth technology has proven effective, but we've been working on something more decisive, a new weapon that could turn the tide of this war permanently." The room fell silent. All eyes were on Dr. Hayes as she activated a holographic display. A massive rotating blueprint appeared, a weapon of staggering size and complexity. "We call it the Hammer," she said, "a planetary defense cannon capable of obliterating entire fleets with a single strike. It's still in the prototype phase, but with the right resources, we could have it operational within months." Voss nodded. "Make it happen. In the meantime, we'll continue our guerrilla tactics, keep the Dominion off balance, and buy us the time we need." Back in Dominion space, Admiral Threx had been reassigned to a punitive fleet, a last chance to redeem himself after his failure at the Zakar system. His orders were clear: locate and destroy humanity's hidden strongholds. Threx's fleet prowled the edges of known space, scanning for any trace of human activity. Weeks passed with no success, and morale among his crew began to falter. "Admiral, we're detecting an anomaly," his tactical officer reported one day. "A faint energy signature, consistent with cloaking technology." Threx's eyes narrowed. "Finally. Prepare to engage." The fleet moved in, their ships spreading out to cover a wide area. But as they approached the source of the signature, the anomaly vanished. "Sir, the signal's gone." "Impossible," Threx snapped. "It's a trap. All ships, defensive positions." Before the order could be fully executed, human stealth ships decloaked around the Dominion fleet, their weapons unleashing a devastating volley. In the aftermath of the ambush, Threx's flagship limped away, damaged but not destroyed. For the first time in his career, the once proud admiral felt the sting of fear. Humanity wasn't just a threat to the Dominion. They were a predator, and the Dominion was their prey. The Dominion's counterstrike. The Dominion High Command, bruised by their latest defeat, poured every ounce of their resources into uncovering humanity's secrets. Spies infiltrated neutral systems, surveillance drones scoured the void, and fleets doubled their patrols in uncharted territories. The Dominion's pride had been wounded, and their retaliation would be swift and merciless. In a darkened war chamber, Grand Strategist Cyros addressed his senior officers. His holographic form towered over them, his expression a mask of cold determination. "We've underestimated the humans for too long," Cyros began. "Their stealth technology and unorthodox tactics have given them the upper hand. But we now have a lead. Intelligence suggests their operations are coordinated from a hidden base in the Ikaran Nebula. If we find it, we can strike at the heart of their rebellion." "Strategist," General Kor interjected, "what if this is another trap? Humanity has lured us into ambushes before." Cyros snarled. "Then we adapt. Deploy our anti-stealth drones. Launch reconnaissance teams. Whatever it takes, we will root them out." Meanwhile, in the Ikaran Nebula, the atmosphere was tense within humanity's command center. The leadership team monitored every report, every intercepted communication, knowing the Dominion's retaliation was inevitable. Commander Alana Voss leaned over a tactical display, her sharp eyes scanning for patterns in the Dominion's movements. "They're closing in," she said. "It's only a matter of time before they find us." "We can't fight them here," Colonel Grant argued. "This base is critical to our operations. If they destroy it, we lose our edge." "That's why we won't let them get close," Voss replied. She turned to Dr. Evelyn Hayes, who had been overseeing the development of humanity's newest weapon. "Doctor, is the hammer ready?" Hayes hesitated. "The prototype is functional, but untested. If we use it now, there's a risk it could backfire." Voss nodded. "Understood, but we might not have a choice." On the outskirts of the Ikaran Nebula, Admiral Threx's fleet advanced cautiously. His ships were equipped with the Dominion's latest anti-stealth technology, designed specifically to counter humanity's elusive tactics. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "our sensors are detecting faint energy signatures. Possible cloaked vessels ahead." "Prepare for engagement," Threx ordered, "but proceed carefully. If this is a trap, we'll be ready." As the Dominion fleet edged closer, human stealth ships began to decloak, surrounding them in a deadly pincer formation. Energy blasts lit up the nebula as the battle erupted, the chaos of combat masking humanity's true intentions. Within the command center, Voss issued a crucial order: "Activate the hammer. Target their flagship." Dr. Hayes hesitated only for a moment before giving the command. Deep beneath the surface of the base, a massive energy cannon powered up, its core glowing with an intense, otherworldly light. The room fell silent as the weapon fired, a beam of concentrated energy tearing through space with devastating precision. The Dominion flagship had no chance. It disintegrated in an instant, leaving the remaining ships in disarray. The surviving Dominion vessels scrambled to retreat, their morale shattered. Admiral Threx's escape pod drifted aimlessly, the once proud leader now a humbled man. For the first time, the Dominion realized that humanity's ingenuity wasn't just dangerous, it was unstoppable. The trap is sprung. The Dominion, humiliated by the devastating loss of their flagship, regrouped in desperation. Grand strategist Cyros, though seething with rage, maintained his calculated demeanor as he devised a plan to lure humanity into overconfidence. If brute force failed, then deception would succeed. Our fleet may be fractured. Cyros addressed his commanders via a secure holographic channel, but our will is not. Humanity believes themselves untouchable. We will exploit their arrogance and lead them into a trap from which there is no escape. The plan was simple yet sinister. A false distress signal would be broadcast from a supposedly neutral planet within Dominion territory. The bait, an abandoned depot containing critical technology. Technology the humans could not resist acquiring. Deep within humanity's command center, the distress signal was intercepted. Commander Alana Voss studied the transmission with a skeptical eye. Could be a trap, Colonel Grant warned, leaning over her shoulder. Everything's a trap, Voss replied dryly. But if the information in this signal is accurate, we can't afford to ignore it. This tech could give us an edge against their fleets. Dr. Evelyn Hayes chimed in. If we're going in, we should send a covert team rather than risk an open confrontation. I have a new cloaking enhancement we can test. Voss nodded. Assemble a strike team. Let's see what they're hiding. The strike team, led by Captain Rylan Marks, departed aboard the Shadowfang, one of humanity's most advanced stealth ships. The journey was tense, but the crew was focused. They knew the risks, yet their resolve never wavered. Upon reaching the planet, the Shadowfang cloaked and descended into the atmosphere. The depot was nestled within a vast canyon, its exterior seemingly abandoned. No Dominion forces in sight. Too easy, Marks muttered as his team disembarked. Inside the depot, the team discovered racks of advanced weaponry and prototypes, unlike anything they had seen. Marks signaled to Voss back at the command center. It's real. We're loading the tech now. But as the first crate was moved, alarms blared. The doors slammed shut, and Dominion soldiers poured in from hidden passages. Overhead, cloaked Dominion ships decloaked, surrounding the Shadowfang. It's a trap, Marks shouted as he fired his weapon, his team falling into defensive positions. Back at the command center, Voss's heart sank as the live feed cut out. They've been ambushed, she said, her voice tight with anger. We need to extract them. Colonel Grant stepped forward. We can't risk the fleet. It's too dangerous. Dr. Hayes, however, had other ideas. The Shadowfang has one last failsafe, an experimental overload system that can destabilize nearby Dominion tech. But it's risky. It could destroy the team too. Voss made the call. Activate it. It's their only chance. Inside the depot, Marks received the activation code. Team, brace yourselves, he shouted, slamming the control panel. The Shadowfang's core surged with energy, emitting a pulse that fried every Dominion system within range. Soldiers' weapons jammed, ships lost power, and chaos erupted. Seizing the moment, the team fought their way back to the ship. The Shadowfang barely lifted off, its systems flickering, but it escaped the Dominion's grasp. The Dominion fleet watched helplessly as their prey slipped away, their ambush a failure. Cyros, observing from his command ship, clenched his fists in frustration. This isn't over, he vowed. The wrath of humanity. The Dominion's humiliation at the failed ambush only fueled their rage. Grand strategist Cyros, now desperate to end humanity's resistance, assembled every remaining fleet at his disposal. The galaxy watched in trepidation as Dominion ships blanketed entire sectors, preparing for what would surely be a decisive assault. "Our forces are unstoppable," Xyros declared to his commanders. "Humanity's defiance ends here." But in the heart of human space, the mood was far from defeated. Humanity had endured too much, fought too hard, to bow now. Commander Elena Voss stood in the war room, her gaze steady as she addressed the council. "This isn't just about survival anymore," she said. "It's about sending a message. Humanity is not to be trifled with. We fight not to defend, but to end this war." The room fell silent, but the determination in their eyes was unanimous. As the Dominion fleet advanced, they encountered empty sectors and derelict outposts. Confusion rippled through their ranks. Where was the human fleet? Why were the humans retreating? "This is no retreat," Xyros muttered, sensing the unease in his officers. "They're planning something. Stay vigilant." But vigilance wasn't enough. The Exodus, humanity's most advanced warship, emerged from its hidden base deep within a nebula. Its hull gleamed with a new alloy, resistant to Dominion weaponry. Flanking it were hundreds of cloaked human ships, now armed with the stolen Dominion technology. In the command center of the Exodus, Commander Voss stood alongside Dr. Evelyn Hayes and Colonel Grant. "Begin the operation," Voss ordered. Humanity's fleet struck with precision and fury. The Dominion's mighty armadas, designed for overwhelming firepower, were no match for the guerrilla tactics and advanced cloaking of the human ships. One by one, Dominion ships fell, their ranks crumbling. Panic set in aboard Cyros's flagship. "How are they doing this?" his second-in-command shouted. Xyros clenched his jaw. "They've adapted. They're using our technology against us." The realization came too late. The Exodus led a direct assault on the flagship, its massive cannons tearing through Dominion defenses. Xyros, refusing to flee, watched as the human ships closed in. On the Exodus, Voss delivered the final command. "End this." The flagship exploded in a brilliant flash, signaling the collapse of the Dominion's fleet. The remaining ships scattered, leaderless and broken. The galaxy held its breath as the news spread. Humanity had not only survived but emerged victorious. Their wrath, once underestimated, had reshaped the balance of power across the stars. Epilogue. In the aftermath, humanity didn't seek to conquer. Instead, they established a council to ensure no empire would ever threaten the galaxy's peace again. But the message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated, and if provoked, their wrath could shake the very foundations of the universe.